Oh my goodness, I'm making that face.
All right, let's start. On September 17th, 1796, President George Washington delivered his farewell address to mark the end of the second term as president of our fledgling nation. In his address, he emphasized the need for populist unity throughout the people and warned against the machinations of party and factional organizations. President Washington wanted the people to remember that the things that unite us outnumber what divides us. I think Americans largely ignored and eventually forgot this warning in the 21st century. I will now read a piece of his farewell address. The unity of government which constitutes you one people is also now dear to you. It is justly so, for it is a main pillar of the edifice of your real independence, the support of your tranquility at home, your peace abroad, of your safety, of your prosperity, of your very liberty which you so highly prize. But as it is easy to foresee that from different causes and from different quarters, much pains will be taken, many artifices employed to weaken in your minds the conviction of these truths. As this is employed to weaken in your minds as this is the point in your political fortress against which the batteries of internal and external enemies will be most constantly and actively, though often covertly and insidiously directed. It is of infinite moment that you should properly estimate the immense value of your national union to your collective and individual happiness, that you should cherish a cordial, habitual, and immovable attachment to it, accustoming yourselves to think and speak of it as of the palladium of your political safety and prosperity, watching for its preservation with jealous anxiety, discountenancing whatever it may suggest even a suspicion that it can in any event be abandoned, and indignantly frowning upon the first dawning of every attempt to alienate any portion of our country from the rest, or to enfeeble the sacred ties which now link together the various parts. For this you have every inducement of sympathy, interest, citizens of birth or choice of a common country. That country has a right to concentrate your affections. The name of American, which belongs to you in your national capacity, must always exalt the just pride of patriotism more than any appellation derived from local discriminations, which slight shades of difference. You have the same religion, manners, habits, and political principles. You have in a common cause fought and triumphed together. The independence and liberty you possess are the work of joint counsels and joint efforts of common dangers, sufferings, and successes. George Washington, 1796. I particularly like the words, the name of American which belongs to you in your national capacity must always exalt the just pride of patriotism more than any appellation derived from local discriminations. An elegant way of conveying the importance of patriotism would seek to call to those who would seek to call themselves an American regardless of regional or ethnic differences, arguably precursing the idea that Martin Luther King conveyed in his I Have a Dream sentiment half a century later. A century and a half later, sorry.
Wow.
What do you think of that? Do you think we've strayed from George Washington's original idea?
Yes.
8 years ago, if you would have asked that question, I'd be like, why do you think that? Like, you know, like, why are you thinking that? And now it's like...
Just 8 years ago?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it was already... I think 8 years ago, people were more... before, like, honestly, before Trump, I think people still had more confidence in the institution. Or at least had more of... There was a more of a majority of people who had confidence in the institution. And I think it's reversed now. I think it's a majority are less trustful of the government now than people are. And I think people who really are like looking to the government for solutions.
Less trustful of government, but ironically more trustful of their respective parties or factions.
Yeah, we become more faction to the party.
More tribal.
To the party itself than to even the government. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think... I don't know. George Washington always seemed like he was a pretty humble dude, like in the sense, because he didn't even want to run. He didn't want to run for a second time, but he was pretty much forced. And then the third time, if there was an opportunity for a third time, he was just already so...
He could easily have become a king.
He could have, but he chose. He knew exactly.
And it's we should be celebrating that whenever we see it in history. Mm-hmm. Anytime someone turns down power when they could have easily taken it all, that should be celebrated.
I think, but then also look at George Washington himself today. He's almost not even a celebrated figure in many younger people's eyes now. You know, like the fact that you would take his name off on a school or something like that in today's age, I think kind of shows that we've completely strayed away. Even like where people don't even recognize what George Washington's like true, what his
accomplishment?
His greatest accomplishment was setting that precedent of I think, in my opinion, that was the greatest thing he could have ever done, was make that precedent of only running for 2 terms, you know.
And it wasn't broken until...
It wasn't broken until FDR.
Theodore Roosevelt.
No, FDR. He went...
Well, successfully. Theodore Roosevelt attempted to break it.
Oh, yes.
By running for it.
But, you know... And FDR was actually popular all those years, too. But... You know, George. Like, I think that's his greatest legacy is being that selfless leader. To say, you know, he set the tone for every other president after, whether they followed it or not. I think you know, he's the one that you can, you know, obviously Abraham Lincoln too, but when it comes to why presidents, you know, obviously when it comes to why presidents don't have more than 2 terms. Because he's the guy that started it, and he's the guy that told people, like, you can't, like, we don't want, I don't want to stay in power because then I'm effectively just a king. Like you said, I am just becoming king. That the whole point of why we revolutionized, you know, we formed a revolutionary against England was because of, you know, not the main thing, but like the monarchy, you know what I mean? The pursuit of religious freedom, the pursuit to with the taxes, everything. But at the end of the day, he saw what a monarchy does, and he knew that if he was continued on the path that the people wanted him to do, it would just have, America probably would have turned into some sort of monarchy that's not a monarchy, I think. What do you think about George Washington's lasting effect, or based off what you kind of said? Like,
I think young people today need to read his farewell address and learn more about George Washington's ideals and how he set the tone for at least the 19th century, if not the whole country.
And it's just,
and we need to understand that in the United States, when it first started out, the federal government did not have all that much power. It was much smaller.
It was the states.
And it was more, the people were more self-reliant.
Mm-hmm.
They knew how to work land. They knew how to farm their own food.
Mm-hmm.
They knew how to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
They were responsible with guns, most people. And it's too many people are quick to point out, oh, well, they had slaves, so we're obviously better than them. That's not...
What's crazy is that
slavery existed for most of human history. It's a miracle it was abolished, really.
Yeah, that is. It's. If you look at the context of even that, it's even newer. You know what I mean? Like, it's so new that, you know what I mean? We think it's been years since we've read. How could this?
But most people don't have any concept of history beyond the past 100 years.
Yeah, that's true. I think for most people, when they think of history, they just think of when America... I think for them, like when America became the United States, I think that's when... To be honest, I think that's when a lot of people think history started.
I feel like they just go Mayflower, Washington, Lincoln,
and World War II.
and then World War One,
Yeah,
and then
World
World
War
War
II.
II,
Yeah.
and then Cold War, and then now we're here.
And 9/11.
Yeah, and 9/11. Yeah.
And Donald Trump.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
COVID.
Like that's literally how everybody sees the U.S., man.
U.S. history.
I mean, yeah. Because you're absolutely right about slavery, man. Because what slavery has been going on ever since like the Egyptian times, hasn't it?
Yeah, what are considered minorities
Since
they
the
used to
birth
have.
of civilization.
Yeah.
Huh?
Since civilization started, there's been slaves. Because
And-
farming is hard.
Mm-hmm.
So people with more power, with more physical strength, are going to force weaker people to do farm for them. That's how it started.
And at the end of the day, there's always going to be that kind of, I don't want to say slave mentality, but there's always going to be that kind of like, I'm not saying, one could say workers, one could say, working at a factory job, sometimes people will consider that like now to modern day slavery, or still like any like immigrants working in fields, they'd say that's modern day slavery because you're just using them for cheap labor or whatever, and it's like, okay, well, who else is stepping up to do the work that needs to be done? No one. You know what I mean? But I think people just, anything that was considered bad now, then people can't look at faults or maybe wrongdoing and understand why it was like if you were to go back in time and tell all these people how, you cannot be a slave owner, how dare you do this, whatever. Even the slaves would look at you like, huh? You know what I mean? Like, it was so ingrained in the time that it's like you can't judge. It's hard to make your full judgment on somebody like George Washington or Abraham, or Thomas Jefferson because they had slaves. It's like you're going to base your whole entire view off of them because of something that was already set in, like, how it was in that time.
It's a very shallow concept
Yeah,
of history. Shallow.
And I think that's why I really think that's a big reason why so many people don't acknowledge that past of the United States anymore, of like these things, because of slavery being the main issue. I think slavery now has been, it's almost, that's what people look at for every little thing now to see if people from the past.
But that means they don't acknowledge most of human history.
Yeah, I know.
I also feel like it's kind of a certain way about how those kinds of times are also being like taught in schools, I guess you can say. Because they usually, I feel like nowadays schools, and I guess we're kind of veering off topic, but still, it's like they're teaching kids about history and stuff like that, saying, okay, well, George Washington was one of the founding fathers. He did this, and the other.
But he
was a slave owner. But he was a slave owner, and then they're just gonna say, well, it's like, and then if you're introducing this topic into somebody who doesn't even understand what slavery is, then they're gonna explain it to them. It's like, slavery is when you force someone to do work for yourself at the benefit of you, but not the person who's, which I also find to be a little controversial, that statement too, because slaves had housing, I mean, I'm not trying to justify slavery. I'm just saying I think
we're not justifying slavery here.
No, yeah, no. I just think that people aren't understanding that yes, it was bad what was going on back then, but people back then didn't know any better either way. And they also don't understand and I also feel like it's funny too that they don't see the irony in the fact that now, I guess you can say, minority classes are working these jobs, hard labor jobs and stuff like that. I'm like, well, we're still kind of in the middle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's just, the way that I think about it is, people would justify slavery back then as,
whipping,
like they would justify slavery being bad because of derogatory terms
that people used to use,
and physical abuse and stuff like that. Now, I understand that, and that's completely understandable. But now too, I feel like in modern day society, slavery can be considered as, like I said, these minorities working these hard jobs for little pay, best case scenario, they get to a place that actually is able to give them housing. And then they're just stuck there, just working all the time, working for
and sending as much money as they can send back home to their countries, to their
Yeah.
family. Because, you know, look at some of these programs that we experience working in tourist towns. You know?
Yeah.
You know, they don't have to get paid even minimum wage of what current state, you know what I mean? Because they're not, you know, considered citizens. So yeah, like one could say like the way we view it
Yeah.
was different, but it's, you know, one could say it's still semi there. So that's why it's like be careful in how you
you're-
say and
yeah.
how you're telling people. And at the same time too, I think with a lot of people now understanding slavery is I think they a lot of people also forget that we're the country that set the precedent for every other country to follow as well to abolish slavery. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there was no before until we had the Civil War.
The British Empire did a good job abolishing slavery, but for them it was a much more slow process.
Mm-hmm.
I think it started in the colonial era. The sentiment started to grow out from first being the Englishmen, the fact that Englishmen were granted these rights, and it spread to anyone who came to England. You step foot on the English soil, you're a free man. That idea incubated in that populace more and more, eventually grew into a movement to abolish slavery around the world. And at one point, there was even a specific squadron of the British Navy that just a few ships to start with that tried to blockade the entire continent of Africa. It was kind of funny.
Really? Like what do you mean blockade it?
Block slavers from coming to.
No, that's what I mean. So like to not let people
Yeah.
try and get slaves. Wow.
And eventually it spread to the whole English Navy on a crusade to end slavery.
Okay,
finally
yes, but
abolished
maybe
it
that
within their own borders.
maybe that ended in English, like in England. But it's still at that time the English were still colonizing countries at that time too.
Well, they were still very capitalistic.
Yeah,
Wanted
okay.
to exploit
Yeah, exactly.
other countries for profit.
But you know, I would, you know, the fact though is that if we had not had the Civil War, how would slavery have looked at, you know, how would it look today if there was no Civil War, you know?
Well, we're getting into hypotheticals.
I know, but like,
I think it still would have been abolished eventually.
but
Just for
where?
economic
What
reasons.
country would have done that? Do you think? Do you think it would have been England, or you know, was it always kind of like I look back and I feel like
I think it was a combination of Western countries with the Christian ethos along with economic incentives. Because I think particularly after the Industrial Revolution, I think we would have shifted from agricultural
machinery.
chattel slavery to wage slavery.
Yeah.
Which is arguably what the Civil War transitioned the country. We went from a chattel slavery nation to a wage slavery nation, which wage slavery is definitely better than chattel slavery.
Well, yeah. But, you know, eventually it was, you know, gonna happen. Yeah.
But to benefit the doubt, not benefit the doubt, devil's advocate here, what do you think this country would look like if it was split down, if it was still split? Like, technically one country, but practically speaking, two countries. What if we still had the southern states reliant on slavery and the rest of the country industrializing?
I don't think it could ever work because, like you mean you're gonna have, like, you know, something probably would have happened to where it's like, Colorado's the slave state, New Mexico's not, Kansas is, Texas is not, Arizona's it, you know, like
with cotton being generated in the slave states being sent to the industrialized states.
Oh yeah. I don't think that would.
If it was a symbiotic relationship.
I think that slavery wouldn't exist because it wouldn't. Because now
I think the natural evolution.
Well, yeah, it's just because now we would just be. I think the only thing that would be very, very still going on there would be extreme racism. Extreme racism. Extreme racism. And
Which is still alive in the South.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, but still, it would be.
Well, it's alive everywhere.
Yeah. It would be like nationwide full prejudice racism. You know, I think that's what I could have seen happening if the North and the South would have stayed like, you know, separate from one another.
I think it would still be like what the 60s, 50s, 40s were like, but like that, but a modern version of that today. If it's still, you know, like the
that would definitely
segregation.
change my family history.
Why?
Because my maternal grandfather immigrated from Mississippi to California.
Oh, really? And why? Because he was from the South?
If we still had slaves.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of what I feel like times would look like if that would happen. Because either way, you still would have had an economy that's still growing, and you need people to work those jobs. So then, why would you just be like, okay, we have all these people who are working for so little, and we have all these demands to meet on goods, products that we're trying to sell. So it's like, just bring all the slaves over here, and then we can start building a bigger economy. And then that's where I feel like slavery would have ended. It's just more products to make. You need a lot of workers to do that, and then that's kind of where that would have sprouted from. I think another thing too, though, is that you would have, if North and South still existed too, you would have completely destroyed a middle class too.
What do you mean?
Well, if you would have, like, there would be no such thing as a middle class if you had a North and South still, you know, like in that sense.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because
it's going to be dominated by.
Well, yeah, because then you're gonna have you're either gonna have a minority who's just like, okay, you can work for us, and stuff like that, and our economy's still going, all that good stuff like that. But you're gonna have somebody who's owning that business, and then those minorities who are working for that business. There's no in between right there. It's just entrepreneurs and workers. That's it. That's how.
There would have been no upward mobility. How?
Well, yeah, I mean, because they would still understand that there's still prejudice still. You know what I'm saying?
You're saying we'd be more aristocratic?
Yeah.
If we still had the divisions we had in the 19th century.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
That makes sense a lot.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, you could say we started out very aristocratic.
Yeah.
We're almost like that now, in a sense. The middle classes.
The founders were wealthy landowners.
Yeah.
Who partly rebelled for their own financial interests.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, they all came to the table. They all put something together. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't just living the life, oh, we're aristocratic. Yeah, you know. They had to rebel because of, like you said. But they still provided, you know, they provided at least the foundation for the country, you know what I mean? Like their model was in a way a little more humble, I guess. It's not humble, but there's some humility in the Bill of Rights, you know what I mean? Like you know, protections, all these things.
Well, I think that's mostly because they were financially motivated.
And if you still talk about humility too, I mean, even getting back to the topic too, Washington set a great example for, you know, future leaders just because of his humility. And not just that too, but because I love the fact that he was very, very humble about taking that place of power, but also too how to set that example for others. Just be like, hey, you know, this is the land of we the people. You know what I'm saying? And there shouldn't just be one person doing this for however long. It should always be okay, 2 years with this guy. Maybe he changed the course in this way. Maybe it's time for somebody new to come in with new ideas and genius, that intellect to start something like that, just so he understood that everybody else gets a chance to make an impact into a nation that's slowly building up. I think that's just
and that's
fucking genius, man.
the advantage of that mentality. That's part that foresight. I think that foresight partly comes from the fact that they were mostly financially motivated. They were just wanted the motivation for writing the freedoms we have in the Constitution came from the fact that they just wanted to live their own lives making money.
Yeah.
Contrast that with the foundations of the Confederacy, which if you read Jefferson Davis's autobiography, the president of the Confederacy, he actually writes racial discrimination. Writes about racial discrimination. Writes about how blacks are inferior.
Really? Well, he was just pure.
Yeah.
Just pure
racist,
pure
evil.
prejudice.
He did not.
He wrote all about the Confederacy after the war.
Yeah.
Because I think it was pardoned. But that's the I'm trying to show. My point is that there's a contrast between the foundations of each nation, because they were both they were like two different nations, the North and the South. Mm-hmm. The founders of the Constitution just wanted everyone to be able to make money. That was much of the motivation.
Yeah, and then they were so separated from.
And it goes back to the British Empire and the Dutch empires. Most of their motivation was
expansion,
just making money.
Yeah.
Which is why they were more or less benevolent empires, the British and the Dutch, because they were like, they subjugated, they kind of subjugated the colonies, but in terms of empires, like I'll put it this way, I'd much rather be under the British Empire than the Spanish Empire.
Oh yeah, the Spanish Empire was there to convert too.
The Spanish were brutal.
Yeah, their whole purpose was to convert people to Christianity. I mean, that was the reason. We need to, and English just like we just want to be from this.
Just pay your taxes, whatever.
Yeah.
Just pay taxes,
maybe serve in our army.
Yeah. Going back to Washington though, to kind of a little deviate off the slavery part. I think if Washington were to look at like a magic ball, right, and just look at, okay, here you go. Since you died, look at the history. You can view the entire history of the United States. Look at it. I think he would look probably at World War II and say this is where how a president is viewed changed. Because I think after World War II, and the Cold War began and such, FDR was so much like the king of the United States at that time. Not the king, but I mean, everything about America at that time was, you looked at it through FDR, And I think the citizens, in my opinion, I felt got so used to the idea of just putting so much reliance on a president to make all these decisions. Because all of a sudden after World War II, I feel the president's powers in a way expanded to the point where all of a sudden they're making more decisions. They had to make more decisions individually to, like in regards to war. We were going to war. They were doing all these things, and I think like now in today's age, when people look at the presidents, we're so like focused on like how are they going to are they gonna lead us to war? Are we gonna go to war now? Or it's so much like of kind of not. And I guess what I'm trying to say is like I think before World War II, the president was obviously a very important person. The president's the most important person, but I felt they were more balanced with the separation of powers than what they are now. I think now people look as, no matter what you can say, like Congress, Supreme Court, and President are all separate but equal. I think if you were to like ask people individually, write down who do you think who's more important, the president or this, I think people are gonna always look at the president. Like to them, they think the president's the one that decides if we're gonna pass this law. The president's the one that's gonna decide if we need to do this. The president.
You could say that's a dereliction of duty on the citizens' part.
On what?
On the citizens' part.
Mm-hmm.
The legislature should be the more powerful one. On paper, it is the more powerful branch. It's in the Constitution. It's the longest section of the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. Of Congress.
And the people have more control of the Congress through voting.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we've been inculcated with this idea that we can just defer responsibility to the president.
Yeah.
Oh, let the president. He'll take care of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how we're supposed
And
to.
I feel like sometimes now Congress is so dependent on the president. You know, they're so dependent on what's the president say. What's the president do? Oh, he's the president now. Nope. Because he's the head of that party, and we're not gonna.
When really the president should be subservient to the Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Congress members should be like, fuck the president. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
Yeah,
because he needs our fucking signature, man.
And no, but at the end of the day, it is separated but equal. Because the president needs the Congress to enact and pass the laws to act. But then at the end of the day, Congress needs the president to sign the bill. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I really just feel we're just so now focused on the president. Like it's when it comes to government, it's everything is about the president.
I think yes, the president, but also the party.
Yeah, the president and the party.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the party as a whole,
yes.
Not just the president. Because, here's one thing that also bugs me about Trump too is, in my opinion, Trump would have been one of the best leaders for this country if he would have just shut the fuck up on Twitter.
Now you're gonna get a bunch of commenters.
Yeah, and bring it. But if I'm being honest with you, Trump would have been a very, very good leader if he didn't get. If he would have just shut the fuck up on Twitter. If I'm being honest with you, if he would have just shut the fuck up on Twitter.
And not be
That's
petty.
his biggest weakness.
Yeah, and not
That's
just
his biggest
be petty.
weakness. He has a big mouth.
And he's petty.
He has an ego, yeah.
He is a megalomaniac.
Yes.
And that is
Definitely.
And that is the best way to explain Trump. And unfortunately too, I feel like the guy sucks because of that, but I think he's not.
So is Javier Milei, the Argentinian president who just got elected.
Megalomaniac?
He's considered like the Trump of Argentina.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
His whole platform was just about decreasing the size of the federal government. And if you listen to him speak, he's kind of bombastic. He's
outlandish.
Outlandish, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like Trump is.
Yeah.
But he won again because of.
It raises the question, do we need a megalomaniac to, actually act for the people? Because the bureaucracy is so big.
But I think that's how people look at it. Any now president going forward since Trump, I think, is now going to be how much do you fight for me? How much do you say this to me? How much do you say this that's going to say what I want to hear from my party side? I voted for you.
And it's also scary for me to think about how the parties are going nowadays too, because look at what's going on with RFK, man. RFK is so hell bent and set on the ways of the Democrats from back in the day, from JFK's days. And
JFK would not fit into the current party of the Democrats.
Hell no. Not of the... No, absolutely not.
That's saying JFK is one of the greatest presidents of all time.
JFK back then didn't really fit in with the system.
Yeah.
He went to war with the CIA.
And I feel like
the CIA did not like him.
He didn't want to go into Vietnam.
Very controversial. Very controversial. But still, I'm just you're on such a roll where I'm also saying, it's hard for me to say whether or not I like a president, because either way, it all just depends. For me, personally, it all just depends on what party they claim.
Well, I think, too, what worries me now with the parties, too, and with presidents, is that I would like to have a president more that, yes, if you're a Democrat or Republican, you have principles within that why you're a Democrat or Republican that you want to do. But I would like to have a president more that's going to be, okay, yes, I'm a Republican, but what is the best for the whole country? Not with the mindset of thinking this is what my party's wanting to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish we'd have a cavalier president right now. And somebody would say Trump is...
Electing more parties into power would help with that.
Well,
so that would take the focus less on the two main parties.
Well, no, I think just having a leader who, like he said, claims a party, but he doesn't. But he doesn't.
His identity.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect.
But then he loses the funding they get from the national convention.
Exactly. That's why it's screwed up right now because it's like they have to almost play puppet to their parties. Now Trump, in one case, is the party, right?
Yeah.
So Trump, in a way, is like, when I'm saying I wish they wouldn't be the representatives of that party, like he's only going by what now the current Republican Party is the party of Trump. It's just like, so it's just his way, right? So that he's doing what I'm saying I wish he wouldn't do. Same thing with Biden. Everyone can say the same thing with Biden about how he's only doing what his advisors and what the party wants, you know. The reason why Biden's not acting on this, you know, he's only doing student debt because it's going to be a point winner for the party. You know what I mean? The reason why any border deals are not coming, Trump said, I didn't want to, he told the Republicans, no, don't do anything to make a deal with the border because we don't want the Democrats to win, to get victory points, you know, and it would help them in the election. That's why I'm saying it's like nothing can happen because everyone's so loyal to the party, or they're so afraid of the party, you know, like you said, because they need funding or whatever, that no one now has the voice to be an independent thinker of the party.
Which is really a shame.
Yeah.
Which is really a shame. Because
that goes into decline in education.
Huh?
That goes into the commodification of education.
Yeah. You know, it's groupthink. It's groupthink is what it is. And groupthink is dangerous.
And also, too, I feel like nowadays, just, especially if we're talking about like the youth of today, I don't think they give a fuck anymore. They don't even, I feel like nobody nowadays just cares, you know?
Yeah,
it's completely understandable considering where, like I said, these politicians are at with not being able to think for themselves as a person, rather than claiming just a whole group and then agreeing with those views instead of coming up. See, because in my opinion, and this is funny because Spungen told me this one time. He said the best.
Spungen is our old history teacher.
Yeah, Spungen is our old history
very
teacher.
legend teacher. Very good. You would love him, talking to him.
You would have had very good conversations with him.
You could probably spend 6 hours talking to him and not get bored.
Yeah. But one thing that I remember him saying when I was taking government was the best government that you'll ever have inside the White House is a mix of parties, he said, because then you're allowing that government to not just have one view from a Democratic side, but you also have from Republicans, Libertarians, all that stuff like that. A smart politician to actually get these points and these viewpoints just all up in the air. Well, you have to also surround yourself around people that not just think one-minded like you. Yeah. You gotta also add, put people in your circle that.
That's the specific problem with the national debates.
Yeah.
Because the commission that controls the televised debates are controlled by the Republicans and Democrats.
You
don't see libertarian on there.
It's not neutral. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even though it claims to be, it's not.
It's not.
And you know what? Going off that, there were politicians like that.
Yeah.
And the last great politician, I think the last great politician, I don't think there's any great politician right now. The last great politician was John McCain, in my opinion. And I don't know if you're kind of, familiar with John McCain, but I think he was the last great politician because, yes, he was a Republican. He ran for president. He lost to Obama, but at the end of the day, he knew, okay, he's my president. At the end of the day, McCain wanted a Democrat to be his vice president, and Joe Lieberman, when he ran in 2008. This is the crazy thing. Joe Lieberman was the vice president candidate for the Democrat Party in 2000 with Al Gore. By 2008, 8 years later, he stayed a Democrat his whole life. I think he's an independent now. But he as a Democrat in 2008 supported John McCain, and John McCain actually wanted him to be his running mate because he wanted to just be like, no, he's a Democrat, I'm a Republican, but we're gonna, you know.
Yeah.
But he didn't because the party influenced him and said, you cannot do that.
I think
You need to have, and so who did he go for? Sarah Palin. And Sarah Palin was the start. Sarah Palin, in my opinion, is the start of the Trump kind of style of government, you know? I think she was the first kind of looked at it as like where people saw that kind of, oh wow, look at
cult of
this.
personality. Too.
Yeah. But you know, even when John McCain died from cancer, 2018 I think John McCain was the one lone Republican that stopped the government when Trump was in power. They could have replaced Obamacare and had their own, Republicans were trying to win points and be like, we did, you know, healthcare, whatever. And there were a lot of flaws in that, what they were trying to pass. And John McCain was the only Republican, or I think maybe another one, but he was the deciding vote to say no. And everyone in his party were just, and he didn't care. He didn't care because he just knew he killed a bill, a monumental bill, and he just killed it with the vote no because he's like, this wasn't thought out correctly. This isn't going to help the people. This is just going to make it more confusing for the people. Why would I do that to my constituents?
Yeah.
He didn't give a fuck if he was the party, the majority leader, and everyone, and Trump, and all them were saying, tell John McCain to vote. You know, he was, I believe, the last true great politician that stuck to his guns and said, at the end of the day, I am an American that will do what's best for the Americans, you know.
I'm an American above an Arizonian, or above a Republican.
Yes. But you guys should really, I mean, I'm not sure how much history you've done into John McCain, or either yourself, but you guys should really look into him more too. He was a great man.
Just for context, the vice presidency and the presidency didn't always used to be linked together.
Used to vote.
I think it was President John Adams, second president. He had Thomas Jefferson as vice president, and they were opposite parties.
Mm-hmm.
Adams was a Federalist, Jefferson was a Democrat Republican, and they split off. I think during the Alien and Sedition Acts.
They didn't like each other either.
Well, they used to be. They started out as friends.
Yeah.
But John Adams implemented the Alien and Sedition Acts, which was basically the Patriot Act of its time, to go against French citizens because Napoleonic wars were going on. They were suspicious of all French people in the country. Mm-hmm. Jefferson opposed him on that, and then they had an ugly election in 1800 where they campaigned against each other.
That's when Adams won, though, or is that when Jefferson won?
No, Jefferson won in 1800.
Yeah.
Adams was one term.
Yeah.
I think it was one term.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
And 1800, that's when I think it went to the Supreme Court. And that's when they made the rule that president and vice president run on the same ticket, and it was usually the same party. I can't think of another example when president and vice president were different parties.
Probably in the early 1800s, to be honest. You know, because you figure once Lincoln became president,
we should probably go back to prior to that and be able to pull from different parties. It shouldn't be the same party.
So it's kind of like in Canada, right? They have the prime minister, and then they have the leader of the opposition, and the prime minister is obviously the figurehead. They're the leader of that country. But the leader of the opposition of the parliament is, you know, the opposite party, whatever. But that person is given like a voice a lot. Like they're like the.
Well, we kind of have that now with the Senate minority leader, the House minority leader.
Yeah, but I think it's different in those senses because like I guess the closest thing for us would be the House, right? The president and the Speaker of the House. I think the Speaker of the House kind of has a little more of a. When it comes to people, you look at power, I think the speaker kind of carries a little more weight than the Senate leader. That's just me. I'm sure they're probably around.
Because it's more populist.
Yeah.
They have more of the bully pulpit on this side.
Mm-hmm. But you know, I forgot where I was going with this. Where were we just
vice president, presidency, different parties.
Oh yeah.
Opposition to majority.
I know, but I forgot. I forgot where I was going with that. It's just we're just talking, folks.
This isn't scripted.
No, I feel like if you were to have something like that happen nowadays, well, it would be very controversial.
So, but what, a vice president, a different party?
Yeah.
I think people can't even grasp that idea of that happening.
Yeah.
Until someone's gonna do it one day. I guarantee you, it will. That probably will happen.
And both parties are just going to be completely confused if a politician tries that.
What if Donald Trump selects Tulsi Gabbard as his VP this time around? I think that would be awesome. I was a fan of Tulsi.
But here's the problem, though, is that like now,
if she's Trump's
Tulsi's
VP,
hated by the Democrats.
Yeah, but a lot of former Democrats love her, so it might get a lot of independents.
But are they? I was gonna say, are they considered Democrats anymore? You know what I mean?
Well, they might still be technically Democrats.
Sure.
Democrat leaning.
Yeah. Honestly, that
would be a very smart move on Trump's part this year. If he picks Tulsi Gabbard as his VP this time, that will turn a lot of Democratic leaning people to his side.
Yeah.
That.
I mean, she was elected in Hawaii, one of the most Democrat states in the country. Like, she was elected consecutively for many years, so obviously she was liked, you know? Now I don't think if she tried running in Hawaii, I don't think she would win because of the party, you know? But yeah, like, she's an independent thinker. That's why, you know? I
don't even know. I'm not even sure if she's a Republican now. Like,
no, she's not a Republican.
She's a Democrat.
She's an independent, I think.
Oh.
Now.
That would be even more controversial.
Well, look at Arizona. Arizona has a senator now. What's her name? Kristen Sinema. Arizona. She won as a Democrat in 2018, and now she switched her affiliation to an independent. Because
I don't think she's affiliated with either party right now.
She's not affiliated with either party.
Although she did speak at CPAC.
And people thought, but why I like Kristen Sinema is because, like, when people see her talking at CPAC, the Republicans are like, yeah! But then she'll all of a sudden make a point that's very like a Democrat kind of point, and it's like, oh, but it's like, to me, it's like, thank you, yeah, I'm glad you're thinking on both ways. You're not just thinking of what your party says. Honestly, the last institution I still have trust in is the Supreme Court. And I hope, this is why I'm pissed off with Congress and the president, because the divisions and those things they're trying to creating, they
arguably have the most power and the least accountability.
Yeah, but hear about this. The Congress, but they should, in a sense. That's why they're the three branches, because at the end of the day, when you need to know, is this legal or not, you know? Like, the Supreme Court decides the most important issues.
Did you read about the expose last year came out? There's an organization that I forget what it's called. God damn it! It's a I think they mark themselves as a historical society about the SCOTUS, but they also take a lot of donations. And there was an expose, I think, in the New York Times about how there's basically a corruption between them and the SCOTUS. Like, they do kickback deals between like they get money from the donors, and then they pass that on to the SCOTUS members. In SCOTUS, I think it's the Historical Society of the SCOTUS. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. To try to kind of sway. Yeah. Okay. Well, I know the Supreme Court themselves just created more rules within each other to where they can't, because of Clarence Thomas. Oh. Yeah, he got accepted some gifts. But they actually, don't quote me for sure, but I think they created some rules. John Roberts, the Chief Justice, I think he's a very good Chief Justice, because yes, he was appointed by a Republican. Yes, he's probably maybe conservative thinking, but he really takes his job as, like, the way I feel he looks at his job is like kind of the same thing with John McCain. At the end of the day, I need to review the law in an unbiased way, in a non-political way, like, you know what I mean?
And stick to my guns.
He is a justice that I think, you know, now that people say, oh, the Supreme Court, you know, it's all full of conservative Republicans now. there's many times now he doesn't even side with the conservative side of the bench. He's siding with the liberals, whatever. But he's one that what I like about him is that he's trying his best to make sure that the Supreme Court does not become political. I don't know if you guys have ever all listened, because you can't watch a Supreme Court hearing because they don't allow cameras. They do allow audio. I don't know if you guys have ever listened to an audio of Supreme Court justices like for a case.
Do you go on Oyas?
Huh?
Do you go on Oyas?
Oyas?
Oyas, I think it's oyas.org.
It's like C-SPAN.
They just have recordings of past cases.
Yeah, but if you ever listen to them, you'll hear like the Supreme Court justices actually are all you can tell they get along, and you could tell they actually at the end of the day do respect each other. Like, I think it's the TV and the politicians that try and create the divisions between, there's 3 liberal justices and 5, whatever. Because when you hear them do their arguments, it'll be the liberal justice that'll say something, and the conservative one will back them up.
I think it's because
it's pertaining to the law.
I think it's because the legal field is very there's no doubt you need to be intelligent to enter the legal field, because the bar is very high. Mm-hmm. You need to go to law school, you need to pass the bar, and you need to follow the strict code of ethics to be a lawyer. There's always
gotta read between the lines,
under threat of being disbarred.
Yeah,
and you have to read a lot. Mm-hmm. So going through that together, even if you have opposing ideologies, I think lawyers have a certain respect for each other.
Look at Antonin Scalia. He was if you remember Scalia.
Yeah.
And do you remember Scalia? He was like a very, what was considered
he was friends with Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
yes,
wasn't he?
Yes. So Ronald Reagan appointed him when he was president, but he was considered a very conservative, whatever, a justice. But he was highly respected, And then Ruth Bader Ginsburg, do you remember her?
Yeah.
Very liberal,
Yeah.
But when justices and former clerks of the justice talk about the dynamic, they say they're almost like best of friends. Yeah. You know what I mean? Even though they were completely on the opposite side, ideological, And I think and they would work together to try and find that middle thing.
I think she had a good working relationship with Kavanaugh too.
She died
before she died.
I just hate how unintelligent parties have made politics.
Yes.
This literally, all this, are you a Republican or are you a Democrat? This sounds like gang wars in fucking Compton, man. It's fucking stupid.
I'm trying to get Esteban in this third seat.
Oh, really? Nice.
Do you think he contributed to this position a lot?
I don't know. I've never really had that kind of...
I think he would.
This type... I think, for sure. Yeah, I'm sure he'd probably be able,
Can you imagine one of our high school co-workers sitting in this third seat?
Not on this topic right now.
Not on this topic.
But maybe... I don't know. I've never really had those conversations with those guys to really know what they know. You know what I mean? But maybe we'll do a trial run one day. We'll bring a recurring guest.
Yeah.
Of high schoolers. One day it'll be this one. The next week it'll be another one. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Just that point exactly. Just political parties are just making politics so unintelligent, man.
Yeah, and they're just they're creating the division because they don't want to be the loser.
Yeah.
We don't want to be the loser, so we're going to cause something. We're not going to support that because we fight for this. And then we're going to rally and we're going to scream and we're going to say that this is bad and we're going to get people to our side. That's how it is now. Trump was in, the Republicans were against all these things that Democrats did, and now when Trump was in, they were kind of in favor of it. Biden's in, when Trump was president, the Democrats were blasting him about the border. We're not a nation of walls. We're not a nation of this. Blah 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 blah. What you're doing is inhumane. And now all of a sudden the script is flipped, and now the Democrats are saying, and now the Republicans are not willing to sign a border deal because they don't want to give the Democrats in power the points.
That border deal also had money for Ukraine in there, which arguably is not how it should be. Why is a bill supposed to be about?
Because the Democrats
a bill
want
on
it.
our border supposedly include foreign aid. That should
to continue the fighting. That's why. That's why it was included in there, because they know Republicans were not going to support Ukraine, and then But Democrats are like, we're not doing anything until that's done.
And that exact thirst for power
Yes.
is what's making it also too is also why I would also even say that people are forgetting George Washington as a whole. This whole entire humility that he instilled upon this nation in the beginning
Bye-bye.
is it's being flushed down the toilet because of this thirst for power, because of this thirst for damn, this party's doing better than this party, all this stuff like that. It's just
we can't let them win.
Yeah. It's
Do you
just.
do you think there's an element of that? Every centralized system attracts people who want power and just want to control the levels of power.
Well, I think power is always going to be an attraction to any system, no matter what. People are just attracted to power. It's just
but it's easier to
in our setup.
In any centralized system, any system that's more centralized.
See, because for
where
me,
divisions are less pronounced.
For me, the humility, because yes, anything like that is still gonna ask for somebody to actually like desire that power, I guess you could say, right? But it also depends on how you view that power, because power is great, but at the same time too, you gotta understand what is the great good for that power. And I feel like I said, nowadays people are just losing track of what that is.
They just want power.
Well, yeah, no, because like you said yourself, Republicans and Democrats are at this point where if Republicans are doing good, Democrats aren't. And then that creates this whole entire thing where, okay, we're losing, they're winning. I'm all like, okay, but who's really the loser? And I feel like that's
Middle class.
the middle class, the poor, and also just the greater view on what the U.S. should be. They're not looking at. They're more focused on the wins and the power and who's in there versus what's actually best and what's the bigger picture.
We're all Americans above everything else.
Exactly.
Above New Mexicans, above Californians, above Republicans, above Democrats, above all that, we're Americans.
Because
the best thing that, because I've had one person ask me, they're all, well, do you claim a party, and if so, what do you are? I'm all like, dude, I'm American. Okay, that's all that this stands for in my chest. Okay.
I vote who's gonna represent and do the best for me in America.
For what I believe is correct for what the nation means, even not even for myself, but for the greater good. Like I said, like not just for myself, because then that makes me sound like it's like, oh, I'm gonna vote for Trump because he's helping my businesses with this tax law or something like that. I'm just saying, okay, this is why I like RFK so much. This is why I like RFK so much, and this is just because he's able to actually also, I guess.
Say what he means?
He's a stand-up guy. He truly does stand by what he believes, and also too, he's also just.
He's not afraid to talk to you.
He's not afraid to also get into conversations with people who are of higher class or middle class or lower class or so on and so forth. The other day I seen one of his campaign things, and guys talking Spanish, man.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Really?
RFK speaks Spanish, man.
What?
Yeah. And I'm sitting here just listening to this guy talking Spanish, and I'm just like, what a fucking great message, dude.
That's populist.
Well,
how much population speaks Spanish?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where and that's where I'm saying is just, that's why I like RFK so much, because he believes in, like I said, the bigger picture versus just, am I jerking off the Democrats or am I jerking off the Republicans? And how much can I jerk them off for before they shoot a big load of wad into my money? A big wad of cash into my hand,
Okay, I got the money. Now I can be president.
Now I can clean my face and go and do this debate.
Time to take off the clown makeup.
So That's why I like
that's the
RFK's
problem with all of our elections. Just every campaign,
Every single politician, man.
Even if you win an election, immediately the party just starts thinking about, hey, we have to get ready for the next election.
Yeah.
Who's gonna be the challenger? CNN. Who is the best chance to challenge Trump?
Immediately, November 5th, November 9th, where they start thinking, okay, election's over. Get ready for the next one. Let's start fundraising again.
Yeah.
If you were to air the debate as a game show, still wouldn't change a single fucking thing.
Yeah. No, RFK. What?
Comes by the Democrats.
I just imagined like election as an election debate, or imagine an election debate in the style of The Price is Right.
All right, come on down, RFK.
All right, first question. What are your views on so-and-so?
Or like Family Feud.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what they should do. A Family Feud with the Democrat leaders and the Republican leaders.
Yeah.
Trump, Biden, Schumer, McConnell. You know?
And then the Libertarian sends up in the office, and like, you guys are a bunch of fucking idiots.
No, they're like, all right, top 6 answers are on the board. We asked every American in the United States, what is the most important thing to them right now? Ukraine. And like, ooh, yeah, that's not gonna get you nothing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, but imagine how much of an eye-opener that would be.
I know. You would
for
really get their
everyone.
full answers.
Because then you would actually understand who's pulling the strings.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
You would so totally understand, because you would.
They're forced to think on the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all for what we could say for a party is points.
Yeah.
it's so stupid.
That's why people like Trump and RFK too, though, because they usually speak of what they're like. You know what I mean? They don't have it like, okay, pull this out. Ooh, that one worked.
Every time a Republican or Democrat gets elected, nowadays that only increases support for an alternative party. Because people are sick of Republicans and Democrats.
Mm-hmm. I think
they have the advantage now because they control basically they control the system. But support for independence is only getting.
I strongly believe by the end of this election, or for sure the next 2028, I think after 2024, I think there's going to be a really big shift in the parties. You know, it's going to have to, because.
At least a shift in the parties.
There's going to have to, because the losing party is not going to like it at all.
Although, I'm skeptical because the Democrats have not learned a thing since 2016.
They're repeating the same thing that they did in 2016. Who was it? Bill Burr. You know, Bill Burr, the comedian.
Yeah, I love Bill Burr.
He went on like Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah, he went on Jimmy Kimmel, and he was just like, yeah, because of you fucking liberals. He's all like that. You're going to get him elected again. Because you keep talking about him and bringing him up in the news. Quit talking about him.
They don't stand for anything. All Democrats stand against Trump.
Yes, that is the Democrat platform. Is, well, we're against Trump. We're not Trump.
And the Republicans are much better. Those two parties, they love talking about how they stand against things. I hardly ever see them talk about how they stand for something.
Isn't it crazy though that Trump, for the last 8 years, is the main person? Like, everything the last 8 years has been centered around what's Trump going to do.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And not just here, in the world.
Media.
Even this discussion.
This discussion. At the end of the day, it's Trump or not Trump. That's what it is.
Well,
you're either for Trump or not Trump. That's how it's viewed today. You know?
Even now too, like,
it's not like.
Do you guys know who John Mulaney is? Or no?
Yeah.
John Mulaney.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Geek.
John Mulaney. Yeah. So just so you know, John Mulaney was he was one of the writers on SNL, and he's also a voice actor for the TV show Big Mouth on Netflix.
And
but he does a lot of stand-up, and one thing he was saying, he's all, man, that first year of Donald Trump was fucking crazy. He said it felt like there was a horse loose in a hospital. He's all, and you gotta understand, people are freaking out because this has never happened before.
in China.
Yeah, and he's all media outlets just go on there and be like, they're all like just constantly commentating on what the horse is doing. And sometimes it's not even good updates. Sometimes it's just like, the horse used the elevator today. I didn't know he can do that.
Yeah. How is it that a horse can get on an elevator and, they have the two sides talking, that's not natural, and we need to look into that to see if there's something wrong with that elevator, because an elevator can't hold the size of a horse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what they would make the discussion about.
We need to hold a congressional investigation.
Yeah. Because we need to find the horse trainer who is responsible for letting him into this hospital. Because he's getting near the babies with his big hooves, and now I'm worried. So
let's continue to watch.
Yeah.
Let's not, I don't know. Like, I think why Trump's gonna win again too is because I have yet to find a person who's not lying, because they're a Democrat or Republican, but like I have yet to find a person to say, life has been so good in this country the last 4 years. Like, it has been, like, we've done great.
We almost had peace in the Middle East.
Yeah, we've done great.
Yeah.
Like, I have yet to meet a person
Abraham Accords, look him up.
I have yet to meet a person that has said that they've, like, now when Trump was president, though, I think in essence, life was, it wasn't chaotic. The only chaos was having to hear about the media talk about Trump still as, you know what I mean? That was the chaos.
Yeah.
The Russia investigation, the border, when the border was doing and they had the kids in cages, Brett Kavanaugh, this is who Trump picked. He's a sexual blah, blah, blah. We have to do everything to stop any of Trump's picks because they're dangerous to democracy. Everything that he did was just attacked, no matter what.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, life was prospering. The economy was going good. There was almost peace, like you said, in the Middle East. China was definitely not tempting us like they are now because he was calling them out. And I've seen this now. You can look up videos of former leaders of when Trump was the leader, and there were leaders, like I think it was like Australia's or New Zealand's former prime minister. And they did an interview, and they're like, to be fair, had Trump not made noise about China, I don't think the rest of the world I don't think the rest of the world would have started noticing. Like, Trump's the one, he says, I will give it to Trump. He's the one that kind of raised the alarms of like, China's kind of screwing us over, huh? When it comes to Russia, people always say Trump's so pro-Russia, which I think I think Trump's just why he seems sympathetic towards Russia is because Putin doesn't say anything bad about Trump.
I think he's more just apathetic. Like, who the fuck cares?
No. If Putin says any bad thing about Trump, I guarantee you, Trump's going to be calling that little bald man in Russia that can't eat, that's always secluded in the Kremlin, while his country is poorer than ever because of their stupid attack on Ukraine. Like, if Putin said anything bad about Trump, I guarantee you he would attack him.
But is that because he's a megalomaniac?
Yes.
And it would hurt his ego?
Yes.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's his ego. He likes people who like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So,
if Democrats were smart, they would use that to their advantage because it's easy to control someone with a big ego.
Yes, but going back to the Russia thing though, Trump called out NATO, right? NATO is the defense of all the countries against Russia, and Trump, they're like, and he's doing it right now. But at the time when he was president, it was controversial because he was saying, we're gonna cut money, you're not paying enough money, Germany. There's a famous video now, you can go on YouTube too, and it's Trump. It's the United States, and it's NATO, the leader of NATO, which is, like the head of NATO, that represents all the countries, which is also the United States. And all the heads of NATO, they're sitting across each other, and this famous thing, Trump just starts, like, the NATO people thought, we're shaking hands, look everybody, whatever. And Trump's like, yeah, okay. Germany is not paying their fair share, and we're expected to defend Germany, but yet they're about to get a pipeline from Russia, all of gas, all from Russia, this major thing into Germany. So they're dealing with the Russians, but if something were to happen with the Germans from Russia, we're supposed to defend that, and then yet they're not even paying, whatever. His ability to just say those things that people were not willing to say is why people are attracted to that too, because it's like, I feel like sometimes people are like, damn man, that motherfucker really said that.
Yeah, like
he really said that. He said what we were thinking.
Even on that, even on his first year with that debate with Hillary Clinton, he told her it's all like, Mr. Trump, did you take those tax breaks? It's all like, of course I did, and so did her donors. Yeah. And I'm all like, that was the best moment ever in.
That's
any
why
single debate that
of course that makes me smart. He goes, I knew this. They all do it. He goes, why would I not do it?
It's all like, so if you were to elect her, just know that you supported it, you know? And I'm just like, that statement right there is so independent thinking.
Because it didn't take him a second to think. Yeah. He was just like, yeah,
I do.
Everyone does it.
Honestly,
I'm a billionaire.
I don't even think he was thinking. I think he was just like
reacting.
He was blurting something out, just reacting.
Yeah,
that's what he does.
But at the end of the day, his reaction won. Like people sided. Like they were like, oh yeah, And then when Hillary said, well,
you could say it was an honest reaction. Like arguably, that's the honest kind of person. Just someone who reacts to things.
Hillary. It's great that somebody like Trump isn't in charge of the, the system or whatever, I don't know, like that. And Trump's like, because you'd be in jail. That was also an iconic.
I remember Trump even, I think it was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner when Trump made a joke that he ran into Hillary beforehand, and they bumped into each other. Hillary was like, "Pardon me," and then Trump says, "We'll talk about that after you elect." That was funny.
Yeah. It was a roast. Yeah. I know.
I think it was the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Yeah. But that's why I think politicians in that style, like you said, Malay, they're getting elected because they're exaggerating when they're speaking, but there's a lot of sense of, okay, you didn't sound like you were saying that because somebody told you to say that. Yeah. And I like that. People, I think, are just craving honesty.
People are catching on to the political game and we're sick of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Because it is a game. And they, why do you want to be around somebody who, at the end of the day, is just lying to you the whole time,
And I feel like also the Democrats are also not helping themselves to not supporting RFK, because then that's just a clear indicator that they're one-sided on who they want to represent their party.
Yeah.
It exposes them.
Kennedy
family is beloved.
So cleanly exposes them. So like that.
Yeah, but the Kennedy family's not supporting him.
But the Kennedys have never been really supported by the Democrats.
Yeah, the brothers.
Well, I think now. Now they are.
They were because the brothers died. No, the brothers died, and the Kennedys almost became
the nephew.
Joseph Kennedy.
I think he came out in support of Clinton. I think.
So then we're gonna get a little bit conspiracy theory then. So then. I don't think I'm gonna get into this, right? So then, yeah, I strongly stand by the fact that not a single political party has ever backed up the Kennedys.
I think I think they were just such free thinkers that I can kind of see that, Why is it a coincidence that the two most powerful brothers of that family died?
Yeah. It's not like they're made of magnets.
Assassinated.
Yeah, it's not like they're made of magnets that suddenly just attract fucking lead bullets.
And that they were also, and why was it that those two were killed, murdered, when they were universally loved by the population?
Yeah.
Why?
And that's,
I won't say universally, but generally.
Well, no, I mean, I would say. I guess not universally, but still, nationwide?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you had You had JFK supporting, like the civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
You also had RFK supporting people like Cesar Chavez for migrant workers. So you had people representing the people. And that's why I'm saying, like, conspiracy theorists, I feel like there's something weird going on there,
What do the Kennedys know?
Well, no, what?
Well, they were anti-war. I think they were anti-Federal Reserve.
Yeah. Like, what is it that was so bad that they were doing that could have brought up all of these ideas of JFK was assassinated?
Going against the bureaucracy.
Yeah,
See,
being against the establishment.
and also too, I strictly remember.
I guess it's called the deep state now.
I remember there was a thing where I think it was an interview that RFK was saying that JFK was actually one of the very few people who wanted to actually abolish the CIA.
He did.
Yeah, and abolish because
He didn't like the CIA.
No, because what
He
the
thought
CIA,
they were being bad.
Yeah, the CIA was only meant for just espionage purposes, not for what they were doing.
Not
engaging
Yes.
in political war.
Yes.
Well, espionage itself is questionable.
Well, no,
Espionage is always going to be around.
espionage, I think, is only just for intellect.
Yeah.
Not for actual, not like I said, for political war. Because I get a feeling that the CIA was definitely involved with the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Of course. Of getting creating
just,
the crisis.
just creating. Well, I don't know about creating the crisis. I think it's a little bit more of just blowing it out of proportion so that they were able to get
convince
into it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. To convince John F. Kennedy that this is we need to
get into this right now, and that's where I feel like the CIA lost its purpose, and that's where I feel like JFK saw that it lost its purpose, and then.
But then after that, every other president just stuck with it.
No,
you know what I mean? No one questioned it.
I don't know if you know about this, but the CIA did. Sounds like Joe Rogan.
What did somebody say? Somebody said, why has no they said, you want to know how, this is just what they were theorizing, but they're like, you want to know how you know that there's more to this JFK assassination is because Trump got access to see those. And if that motherfucker wasn't willing to say what happened, then you know that it was deep.
Yeah.
Because
he didn't spill the beans.
If Donald Trump did not spill the beans on JFK's assassination,
he's getting assassinated that night.
He might have said, "You're next." He might have told him, "Don't do it. We don't want to do this again." But we will. Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson strongly believes that Donald Trump, there's a chance he could get assassinated.
Well, we've been streaming for an hour and 18 minutes.
Oh, wow.
We went from George Washington to CIA conspiracies.
Because we're just talking.
We should, yeah, we're just talking.
We're just talking.
I'd like to keep these about an hour.
Why not an hour and 30? Just kidding.
What do you just chat with us in the comments? What do you think about all this?
They're probably saying, you guys are crazy conspiracy theorists.
You guys smoke too much weed.
Yeah.